So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us to today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Matt Dunphy. I'm a lead consultant in learning and development with Get Savvy. As you can see, or you've already seen, the topic today is how to modernize your outdated courses using AI. Simply speaking, this is definitely tailored for organizations out there who already have a suite of online courses. Don't worry if you are still offline for any reason with your learning, we can share some messages for you as well. But largely, this is about lifting and modernizing existing course material. A couple of quick updates before we dive in. We're very proud to say we're now an award-winning consultancy, thanks to Corporate Vision's NFP Digital Learning Consultancy of the Year 2026. So very much for us, a humble marker of some of the work we've been doing in recent months. And just to say, I mentioned it if you were early on the call, do find your way to the Q&A function. It will more be the team in the background who might be responding to you, but we do love interaction. And indeed, do speak to each other. If you've got a view, please share it, and a peer may well have a similar view. So we'll dive in. This is a fast-paced 30-minute session today, with the demo in the middle. So without further ado, let's go. So we usually start with a kind of a key message or a working assumption. Today, that is that you may well, as an organization, as I say, have online course material already. The assumption is that the content is sound, and you've done a lot of work to put it into an online format. It's likely that the experience is just falling below learners' expectations at the moment. So we really want to create learning that is more engaging, essentially, with the material we've already got. As Get Savvy, our recommendation and experience is it's very achievable these days to add rich features using AI applications and to lift and heighten your course design without having to replace the content. And I'd suggest we do that in two particular ways. We want to look at enhancing the structure of your course material. And of course, what's always successful is adding more interactivity. To take that idea one step forward, let's cast our memories back, and we will have a brief poll on this in a moment. Let's say it's about 5 years ago, post-pandemic. Think about the courses you've got, which may still be around. You know, what you see on screen is the before picture, probably very sufficient and receiving good feedback from your learners. Everything they need to learn is there, including mandatory material or content. And there's likely flow in the course. There are quizzes, some imagery, and it's getting them towards a final assessment and a certificate or just a moment of completion. So the one thing we'd say is learner expectations have obviously changed in the last 5 years. And I always say that's driven by the advances in streaming experience and these other online experiences that people tend to have now. So I'll just pick out a couple of pretty classic things that you want to be including in your courses now to meet new demands. We mentioned interactivity already. On AI support, I would say, even if the learner doesn't know it's there or doesn't appreciate it, this is what we're helping L&D teams to achieve richer features inside our courses. So it's this application and this problem solving using AI that is making a difference. A couple of other things I'd mention. Of course, people expect more personalization now. They're used to that in other online experiences. And in learning, it can help make the experience more immersive and more tailored. And of course, we're learning about learning in the last few years. You know, people are on the go a lot more. You know, they have much less time for learning. They're more distracted by a lot of online engagement elsewhere. So we need to create learning that's both fun and engaging and also can be completed in short bursts where needed. So just before we move on, I think Alan's got a quiz poll, should I say, for us, and we'll take a quick look at that. No judgment, to an amnesty, if you like, just while we're in the room together on the length of time the oldest courses are that you've got. So again, whether you're online at the moment or indeed you have an offline portfolio of learning courses, you know, which are the oldest that you've got around at the moment? We'll take a quick look at the results in a minute, but really for me, this is just to get a sense of the makeup of the group and maybe indicating the size of the problem in terms of what you're working with in the moment around your courses. So I think Alan may well share the results and we'll take a look. So I'll just lean in quickly and have a quick look. So that's not too bad. We've got over half of you in this 2 to 4 years. And certain others that are less than that. So again, I suppose we're in somewhat a risk zone there around knowing that our content needs heightening, knowing it's starting to dip in terms of its quality and the satisfaction you're going. And I'll speak to the other 33%, so a third of you have got courses that are even longer than that designed. And just to say, it's an obvious point, but I'm sure you're itching to redesign them or to give them some of this modernization. So help is at hand. And again, without laboring the point on screen, let's just say, whether it's 5 years ago or even now, your course might look like the picture on the left. The content's been very well thought about. There is flow in what you've got. There is some imagery. It just may well be subject to some of these symptoms you'll see in the middle here. I won't list them, but what I would say the dilemma usually is the material is quite static and it runs the risk of passive learning. So you really want to be obviously adding more to make it more engaging and immersive and improve outcomes. You'll see this run on the right-hand side here. This is some of Get Savvy's design, yet the principle is true for all modern e-learning design. What you see on the right there is a removal of a lot of the heavy text content on screen. Obviously, that's still being communicated, but through audio, video, and in some instances, animation features. So we're really making this more appealing, more fun, and more immersive for the learner through some of the applications we are using now, which include AI. To move this forward a little bit, this is Get Savvy's approach to design with our clients. So you can also adopt it for your own thinking. We look at 3 levels of learning engagement style. I'll bring them in one by one. So the first one is visual. We do find we work with some clients who have good course content where they just want it to be more visually appealing. Now, of course, the look and feel makes that a more comfortable, enjoyable experience for learners. And usually what we see there, how we achieve that design is through more imagery and also through more dynamic or exciting imagery versus kind of stock images from the internet or from your brand catalogue and your image library. We can also introduce elements of video there and even actually structured webinars that we are laying in. And the second level is a focus on interaction. Now, it's not to say level 1 doesn't include interaction in our design. It's really about focus. We all know that the more we give a learner on screen to do, the better. So this is where we can use simple features like flashcards or drag and drops to engage the user more. And again, a lot of this I'll show you in the demo is more supported by AI applications right now. Obviously, we can introduce gamification here so that we know we're actually offering the learner more opportunity to retain what they're absorbing. And the final level here, level 3, is where it gets really exciting. We call this the immersive layer of design, this level of immersion. Again, I would say this is both immersion in the learning experience itself, so making that a richer, deeper experience, and also immersion in the context of the learner, their particular industry or role. You'll see on the right-hand side there, that's how we introduce more scenarios in our learning content and design. It's where we can use conversation-based role play on screen. And also where we're heightening the level of gamification or even heightening the level of the imagery or visuals. So it's all about immersing that person in the course so that they retain more. And I'll raise that point here at the end. This isn't arbitrary. If you're an instructional designer out there, it's not about having a fancy time with design. It's about learning retention. And for a business, an organization, it's about your reputation. And it's about actually proving the value of L&D and e-learning to your senior leaders and your stakeholders externally. So
And
one
Matt,
more,
beg your pardon,
yes,
Matt. We've got just as you're going to the next slide, we've got a really
yes,
good Q&A question. I thought you might want to
sure, let's jump into it.
tackle in stream. So Chris has asked, do you still include text transcriptions when you're adding video and audio content in terms of accessibility, making it more approachable for people? What about things like text transcriptions and having a visual form of the text for people?
Yeah, and I'll definitely show you that in a moment. Thank you for the question. There are various ways here. There's certain things like not directly your question, but we have to retain text around accessibility and closed captioning. Good text on screen is always viable. And then in terms of transcripts, the most exciting thing I'd share is we're able to actually use transcripts as an input now into course authoring applications with AI and actually produce text to voice output. So using those transcripts in a more exciting way. So yes is the answer with this whole broader range of options, which I can show you. Thank you, Alan. So I'll do this very briefly. If any of you love process, our general process is we always start our design with an audit, as you'd expect, and that's both of the volume of courses you've got, particularly those targeted for modernization, and also the level of sophistication, as you've seen, or engagement that you need inside each course. And then it kind of moves in a bit of a rubric through three areas. We use the term refresh to focus on visual impact more. We look at enhance for interactivity and engaging the user more directly inside the courses. And as it sounds, we use extend to create more immersive design and really push it, I think, with the AI features we're seeing at the moment. So I'm going to do a quick switch over now to our demo. And this is a great opportunity where inside Lunch and Learn, I'm going to be able to give you a sense of how these things look actually inside the learning itself. So I think given you've heard Alan already today alongside me, perhaps Alan, you can just let me know where this blinks on screen and you can see it.
Yeah, all there. Good to go.
Fantastic. And keep me honest, this is obviously a live demo. So if anything lags or you need me to slow down, Alan can let me know. And indeed, if there's any more questions. So we'll move through this in about 50 minutes before we wrap. As I say, quite fast paced. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about the three levels of engagement style or design that we offer to our clients. And just again, as instructional designers and learning professionals, that you can think about in terms of introducing modernization into existing courses. So just, classically, this looks like a course pre-AI. I'll draw a couple of things to the front. First off, we have a number of clients at the moment where they offer us material up front as a kind of a pre-example. So if I can just show you this, this is a client that we've had recently. And again, it's in the world of garage repairs and the automobile kind of repairs world. Zero wrong with this content, and indeed with its layout. But as you can see, it's very much manual based, even where there is imagery or schematics. So our job is to take that and to translate it into something more modern. Again, just another example on screen. This is sort of a Get Savvy example where we've curated our content and our key messages a lot up front. But of course, this is completely vanilla. It's inside a Word document. So we start to think about how we can create visual impact. Or even audio impact. So I'll start here. I think almost to the question, we're not losing text in our courses, question we just heard, but we're using transcripts here actually to create an audio impact. So I'll share that now.
Get Savvy leverages 30 years of experience to help organisations manage technology projects effectively. By offering unbiased advice and tailored strategies, they ensure each project aligns with organisational goals and delivers successful outcomes.
So as you can hear, that sounds very professional. It's British for British organisations among us, and it's just giving another element to the course, which essentially is not a lot more interaction, but is increasing impact. If we talk about visuals here, this type of component is common pre-AI. The key difference is both for the text layout and the imagery. It is being suggested to us by an AI assistant. So we're getting a much greater speed of creation of this than having done it without those applications. And of course, this could be your own imagery, or in certain terms, it can be suggested imagery by your course authoring. application. Obviously, branding is important to us as organizations, whatever your industry, you can introduce that as an input. And I mentioned flashcards. Now, again, I know we're in the visual world here, but this is something super simple suggested by AI that is just cutting up the way our text is displayed on screen. It's making it more fun and more accessible. Concertinas or shelving here, always useful. I won't open those out, but again, those don't disappear. But I'm going to show you three sort of ways we can use video or animation to heighten what we do. The first is a short kind of almost like snippet of a PowerPoint presentation, which I'll play now, and you'll see the impact here.
Get Savvy is an online learning platform with a brand new way of delivering immersive learning that is currently not available anywhere else.
So that's just, something that looks like a PowerPoint with someone, a voiceover. Obviously, this is an AI avatar, but surprisingly easier to create than we might think. But again, we're laying that in for a different visual way to interpret what here is Get Savvy's underlying content. An animation example, again, we might be looking for a moment inside one of our courses. Let's say it's a moment of celebration getting to the end of a module. You get something like this. So not only are these 5 people on screen very limber, they must do a lot of yoga, and there's an impact here. There's something fun to watch as you move through a course. And again, very easy to create using the AI applications. And this for me is very impressive. It's almost something that, 10 years ago would have come out of Pixar or another, Hollywood animation company, but much easier and quicker these days. So a quick look between the mouse and the pig there. I sort of feel like if you were looking at a younger generation audience there, not necessarily professional learning, but potentially if you're creating those type of educational courses, could be very powerful. And one final thing here, I mentioned webinars, and I think Alan will forgive me. We can actually now much more easily with the AI applications embed webinar content in, again, for visual impact.
Let's get going. So first of all, a little bit about us at Get Savvy. We provide the learning platform to help people who are faced with a technology project in their own organization. And that's
So thank you, Alan, for that. So again, you can see this is repurposing content. You might have an existing course, but it's actually adding a bit more visual quality through a snippet of a webinar. Again, I'll pause here on visuals because, again, we've all seen this type of carousel content. The important thing with this is it's been suggested by AI inside the course authoring tools. And again, it's allowing us to chunk up what we must share with our learners. Let's say that. I'm going to move now on to the interaction module, if you like, and show you some of these features. As I said, I think there is a reality inside our organizations, the nonprofit sector, that we need to start to engage learners more, to know they're actually doing this learning, whether it's for CPD or qualification purposes, for example. And we do start to see more specificity around industry and role. So here's one example. We all love quizzes. But this is just a highly visual way to create a quiz moment or a check your understanding using some of the design features we've got. So you've got a kind of a profile here, a persona, and you've got a question, and it's still doing the basic things we want, which is ask question, receive answer, and a rationale. A conversation-based example here, and I'll actually talk a bit more about when you've got almost kind of standards content that you need to share. So again, I find this very visually appealing. I have to interact with it to run the conversation. And I'll cut to the quick here. This is a dialogue about whether two, I assume, police officers are going to go in and perform a raid. We answer the question, and what we get here is, the legalese response from police standards endorsing the decision. So again, that's an environment where we must get those standards and their application 100% correct. Also, you might be a process-based organization. We all know we've been there. We've put in an image of a process, which is quite static, and we put a load of text around it. This is where we can use the AI application to create the process, which is very interactive here and engaging. And even as subject matter experts or L&D teams, we can spend a lot more time, in testing and validation, making sure this process is correct. Because again, for water treatment, it must abide by certain standards. Quizzes don't disappear, and actually, I would suggest it's nice to have these as visual breaks, or just to have those moments of simplicity of asking a definition-based question and checking someone's understanding. So that doesn't disappear. But what I'll say is, we'll move to an example. Not certain I'll get all of these right, where we have a drag and drop. Again, simple kind of matching exercise. We've seen those before. What have I got? Got one of them. Well, two of them incorrect there. But the difference is, again, we're adding our content into the course, or we're translating it from an existing course, and we're getting something which is more interactive, whilst not losing the sense of correct answers, incorrect answers, and second or third trials. Simple one here. We do know that our clients sometimes have the need to do text-based check your understandings. That doesn't disappear. So that's kind of moved us on through visual and interactive. Just do a quick time check, and we're going to talk now about immersive. This is my most exciting. Good, we're all good for time. But this is where I say level 3 designer engagement for us is probably for your flagship courses. So maybe where a flagship course is flagging slightly, you've got one and it's been created, a number of years ago, and you really need to relaunch it almost. Some of these features could be very powerful. I'm just going to show you this moment and just say how impressive, and actually in the background, how much more achievable this is now using AI applications or problem solving. So again, I would go to younger generation audience, or the scenario where this is the start of a course module. It immediately draws you in, whether you like dragons or not, or whether they're relevant or not. It is a moment of immersion. I did mention before industry, but the other thing we can do is if you are a safety organization or something similar, you'll always have the need to explore space. I view that as an immersive feature. A bit of fun here. This is about Star Wars, but you can imagine, if you're asking someone to explore a space, find certain things and learn certain outcomes from exploring the space, this is very powerful. I'll shift to a couple of examples now in a moment, which might be about actually physical learning spaces. But let's just do one more. What I love about this is, it's about quotes and about literature. It's not necessarily that it's that complex, but I think just in a highly creative way, it's allowing me to do a bit of sorting and working out which of these great authors fits their quotes before I submit. So young or old, I think it's adding that element of gamification and design in a different way. These examples here, I love this one. If, say, you were in Science Museum or something similar, for me, the impact of this and the immersion is that you're probably toggling this in physical space, excuse the pun, and walking through a journey of discovery as you go. And of course, there's probably very, important content in here. But the key thing for me is this is an immersion feature when you might be in a physical environment. One more, I always think of Kew Gardens, but other horticultural events exist. But let's say you're in space and you want to learn more about the well-being of keeping monstera. I have one literally behind me here today. You're walking through the physical environment. You might be clicking as you go or touching screen. You're getting this beautiful imagery, and you're kind of walking along the journey of how to properly care for your plant. And there's one final thing before we finish that I'll look to, which again comes from the Get Savvy catalogue. This is our course. I just want to show you a few things. So if you have seen our course or you are interested, I'll move through a few of the immersive features we've got.
During this important stage, you'll be working closely with all your stakeholders across the organization. Select each role to hear from them.
So what we've got here is your AI avatar, which we've created as tutor or project management trainer. And you've got this element I mentioned earlier of role play, characters, and the people who might show up in a technology project. Now, I know this chap is Irish and I'm a bit biased, so let's have a listen to one of our characters here.
Hi, Aidan here, one of the end users. At this stage, we will inform our business area leads if there are any issues that will impact the go live. We will also be involved in training.
So the fun here when we create it is you can have different characters. You're really respecting diversity here. And also you are immersing the learner in the various moments of their project.
Sorry, Matt,
A
just to
couple of,
say, really beg your pardon, just for the
yeah.
audience's benefit, because we're playing it over Zoom, the AI avatars sound a little bit laggy and a little bit less human than they do if you're just playing it directly through the learning experience. I just wanted to point that out because Aidan didn't sound quite as Irish as he might do otherwise.
Maybe he's lived in London for a while. So we won't blame, but we will understand that this is through the filter of Zoom. I assure you when you take our course, you get the full impact of Aidan and his participation. So, we have created this dashboard in our course of various features. I'm going to actually show you some that are simple because I do think this blend of immersion, of kind of high interaction and simple engagement is important. So this is checklisting. We have templates that we use at each stage of our project course, and we're asking people to tick off when they have completed the templates. And here we've got a moment of milestones, which you'd expect to be completed at this stage of the project. We're asking people to look through those and just make sure they're all fulfilled before they move on. And then the final thing I'll show you in our demo today and in this course is when we look to check your understanding or the assessment element of our course, there's a little bit of our tutor that I'll play out, and then I'll show you a nice little feature we developed.
Now that you have completed this module, let us check your understanding.
So I'm going to fast forward that because that's just giving you the brief for the assessment. Now, this is just questions, and some of these are quite simple, but you'll see in this kind of like racetrack or journey we've created here. I should emphasize this is all supported by AI, design features underneath, but it's allowing us to progress through various stages of assessment. And let's see how many I can get right as a project manager. So that's question 1. You still get the simple features of, correct or incorrect and try again. And indeed, AI, in terms of the underlying content, is helping you create useful responses there. And I'll do one more, which I think is multiple choice coming up. So I'm moving through each of these stages. This is not rocket science, but it's highly visually appealing. And for me, the immersive element is taking someone along this racetrack or along this kind of journey. Again, let's see. Correct, all the way through. Fantastic. So that's a bit from our course, and we would probably say we created something that was immersive in all those ways. So what I'm going to do now is just move back to our actual slides today, and we are sort of coming to a close. So really, point being, when you see each of the design features, you should be getting a true impression that a lot of this is very achievable now using the AI applications and course authoring tools. And to emphasize the key point, this is something you can use to lift your courses without starting from scratch. So we'll just move to a couple of final things on screen here. We do like to offer a lot for free around these sessions. So quick point here. If you really need one, we can talk to you about 15-minute conversation for free around your current challenges, ambitions at the moment. We're a great sounding board. There's no strings attached there, and you can literally describe what you're working with as a learning team. We also actually do a great offer where we'll take a module of your content, examine it, offer back some recommendations for free on design, and actually, in some cases, create a proof of concept to show you the art of the possible. And again, what I should say is we're not locking you into any long-term contracts in this. These are free offers, and even when we work with you, it is largely sprint-based. We also run pilots so that you can get a step or two ahead without feeling like you have to go to your board for heavy investment. Final things here. I'll flash this up, but you can certainly see this in the recording. And this is our pricing across those 3 engagement styles or levels. Generally summarize this by saying you can get something very visual for around the 2,500 British pounds. That obviously scales up for us to something very, very ambitious around 15,000. And we're always open to negotiation, and there's always variation in what people need for their projects. And final things, I think Alan's going to flash this up now, and I really would love you to engage with it. We will send you the recording for the session after today. And on screen now, you've just seen a very quick feedback request, just your rating on today's experience. And if you really do want a conversation, please just say yes here, and we will offer that for free. And we're a very, very good sounding board for anything you're dealing with right now around your courses. And just to say, as we approach 1 o'clock, hopefully you're really enjoying your lunch or you're just finished. Think about two events we've got coming up. Next week, we've got one of our classic webinars focused on budget-friendly LMS options. If you need to change platforms or create a learning platform, how can you do that affordably? And in October, we've got another Lunch and Learn, which is about creating courses in an affordable way using AI features. So, a real eye on making a lot of change without actually needing to invest hundreds of thousands this or next year. So again, if the feedback moment is still in front of you and the request for a conversation, please do respond to that before you go. I know this is always breezy, but thank you for spending your time with us over the lunch break. We hope you've learned something, and please do indeed join us again next time.